Welcome back to my channel. The series name is What If Naruto Had Power of Vergil. This is second part of the series, so let's start the series. Naruto's team all stood in front of the Onigashima with Vergil beside them mumbling about hot-ass bitches being worse than an army of demons. Naruto was in between Shadow and Vergil. Vergil having his arms crossed with a silent frown on his face and Shadow looking like she'd rather be anywhere else at the moment. Alright, what happened? The Onigashima questioned, his fingers laced together as he looked at them, and Vergil was the first to speak. We were attacked by a group of ninja, which I believe to either be from Konoha or in some way affiliated with them. The leader of the group had a hidden Konohagakure Hittite around his left arm. The group consisted of 6 members. Each had an ability to vanish from the visible spectrum. Although the leader didn't use this ability, I believe he had it also. The group attacked in order to gain access to a crate that was on board the train at the time. It was Shinra cargo. The boy explained, and the Onigashima pinched the bridge of his nose while Shadow looked at her feet. Dad, Onigashima, are we in trouble? She asked, and the Onigashima gave her a soft smile. No, you all did your best given the situation. You made sure no civilian casualties were sustained. Although the train cars that were detached do have to be repaired, it's nothing we can't afford. Shinra, however, was in the wrong by not telling us of this cargo of theirs. And at the moment a few of the council are trying to intimidate the Shinra group into telling us what they felt they had to put on a civilian train as we speak, he said, then frowned to himself. As for the ability you mentioned, Vergil, exactly what did it look like when you couldn't see them? He questioned, and Vergil took a thoughtful expression as he tried to put it into words. They were almost like shadows, existing in the visible spectrum, but blurred, and when they moved it was almost like looking at something with an afterimage, not stable. Completely, as they moved faster than light itself when they used the ability. And then when they stopped using the ability it was almost like the shadows pulled off of them, and they no longer blurred. Vergil said with a frown, and the Onigashima took a thoughtful look. It's called the Shadow Cloak. It's an ability my clan learns when they reach master level. However, not many can use it otherwise, he said, and Shadow gawked. You mean they were from our clan? She demanded, and the Onigashima shook his head. What about the leader? If the others weren't, although unlikely, it is possible that he might have been from our clan. What did he look like exactly? I might know of him if he was banished from the clan, he asked, and Vergil frowned. He was about my height if not taller, with black hair, one blue one red eye with a scar over the blue eye, pale skin, and used a pair of tonfa. Also, he said his name was Will. Vergil said, and the Onigashima frowned. Although similar to us, he's definitely not from our clan. Those eyes are from an old order of priests indignant to Konoha and Fire Country, however. But they were supposed to have vanished centuries ago, the man said, and Vergil narrowed his eyes. Then he is from Konoha. What are they up to? Vergil wondered to himself with a frown, and the Onigashima sighed and leaned back in his chair. I don't know what they're up to, however. I believe that you should all head to their Chunin exams. It's in a month's time, which could allow us some intel on their forces. We haven't been in contact with them for a good deal of time after all. Also, Vergil sent me a request to have your team head to Nami no Kuni, the Onigashima said, and Naruto blinked. What? Grandpa Vergil wants us? What for? The boy questioned, and the Onigashima chuckled to himself softly. Simply put, Naruto, he wants you to assist him with freeing Nami no Kuni from the businessman Gato, the Onigashima said, and Naruto gawked. Wait, Gato, as in Gato shipping? The richest man in the world? Naruto questioned, and the Onigashima nodded his head. What the hell is going on down there? He questioned, and the Onigashima frowned. We're not entirely sure, but according to Vergil's report it seems that not only has Gato taken over the country, but he's making sure he's feared by killing all who oppose him. He has hired bandits, mercenaries, and missing Nin to ensure that no one opposes him. Also, it seems he's been attempting to keep them from making a bridge to the mainland so the village could prosper. Abel told them, and Naruto frowned. So when do we leave? He asked, and the Onigashima looked to Vergil. Vergil, I'm afraid, won't be going anywhere as of yet. He has to remain here and begin his training for the Nero Angelo Corps, the man said, and then stroked his chin silently. Also, it could be a while before the Texan South City get the gate ready to send you all to Wave. The Onigashima began, and Naruto raised a hand. Yes, Naruto? The man questioned of the younger redhead. What's the gate? He questioned, and the Onigashima chuckled. Sorry, I forgot you've never been through the gate before, he said mostly to himself as he looked at the boy. The gate is a combination of seals, chakra manipulation, and the newest available technology. It was developed as a means for our shinobi to get in and out of other countries quickly, but is also viable for full-scale invasions on our own part, Abel said, then leaned back. The gate works by having over a dozen seals on it, and is like a much larger version of the Yondaime Hokage's Hiraishin no Jutsu, as it can transport a person almost instantaneously to another area. However, this device needs an enormous amount of chakra to be used, and as such, it's lucky that you and Vergil have such large chakra stores. If you didn't, it would take nearly a month to store the power needed in the energy grid. The Onakage finished, and Naruto and Vergil nodded to the man. Also, Vergil sent a note about that Legion thing of yours. He says you need to look up a Dark Legionnaire in a book called The Forbidden Apocrypha of Azark. The Onakage informed and then smirked. You will all be contacted when the gate is ready, so until then, dismissed. And with that the four gave a quick salute and left the Onakage to his work. So it's in that stupid Apocrypha thing, Naruto said as they left the Onakage office and walked down a stairway. What do you mean stupid Apocrypha thing? Shadow questioned with air quotes, and Naruto crossed his arms. I mean, that thing is where Grandpa gave me my lessons in Kenjutsu from. He said he uses the Dark Slayer style like V here, but he wants me to use the Chaos Knight style. Apparently it had a few varying tricks that his Dark Slayer or Dirge's trickster styles didn't, which he believed would be more useful to me. Not sure why he thought that though, Naruto stated, and Vergil shrugged. Think of it this way, he wanted you to move forward under your own power, not copy his or my strengths. He wants you to become known for your own skill, your own sword, your own power, Vergil said sagely, and Shadow snickered. Nizan is being silly and thinking too much again, huh, Naruto-chan? She asked and grinned, seeing as Naruto looked at her angrily for calling him Naruto-chan. Oh, come on, you two, don't be such sticks in the mud. Let's go find that book so Naruto-chan can use that Legion thing, and we can go see Vergil. The girl exclaimed, walking off, while Naruto and Vergil both grumbled about her being annoying with nicknames. Vergil's castle, the home of his grandfather, and by proxy, Naruto himself, lay just north of the main village, past the ruins of a long-since forgotten city, which lay beyond an ancient forest filled with demons and other such creatures. In his youth, Naruto had never truly appreciated the true ancient beauty of his grandfather's home. It was just a castle to him at first, something that was expected to be massive and made for multiple people to live in, nothing out of the ordinary for someone of the lineage that Vergil was constantly reminding him he was of. However, as he got older he could actually appreciate it. It being the only Western-style castle to have survived 200 years of war and death, while the people of the world around it would slowly fade, then be reborn. The castle was large, being at least 15 stories tall with over 100 rooms, if not more, and was of an ancient lost Western design, being made of some unknown mineral, possibly something from the demon world, as it was too sturdy to be something of lesser stones of this world to have survived as long as it had. Ancient blood still covered many of the walls within the castle. More on the outside, the numerous towers covering the castle all around, ancient paths linking between them with massive spikes covering these paths. The walls had symbols etched into them, ancient and forgotten glyphs that only those from the past would be able to identify, archways and columns lining the sides of the castle, like the spikes and towers, completely covering the building, with a single, massive tower jutting up from the very center of the castle and high into the skies above. The ancient walls surrounding the castle were partly destroyed by time and war, wars that had ended long ago. However, the walls also seeming to hold in ancient demons, ones loyal to Sparta no less, whom still protected it from intruders. A garden was outside the castle with stone steps and paths leading to the castle's entranceway, Naruto and Vergil both having tended to the plants daily. For Naruto it was his hobby to care for plants. For Vergil, it was a way to relax and spend time with his grandson outside of training. Vergil had once said that this castle was built by Sparta's followers for him, when he once ruled over humanity and protected them. For some reason, Naruto didn't disbelieve his grandfather. He had also said that it was his mother, Eva, who had planted this garden long ago, before his family moved at least. The inside of the castle was something to behold, as it still held an ancient beauty, though the modern conveniences had been added also, like electricity, mostly for comfort. The floors were mostly made of fine marble and looked reflective, some rooms having hardwood floors and others even having rugs. One room in particular was massive in size, with a rounded look, stained glass windows all around the length of the room, large columns between many of them with 2 stone bridges between a circular altar, and a strange, almost statue-like object which had a door on either side of it. The library of this room was the largest in the known world, having well over 500,000 books alone, shelves lining every wall with more in the center, stairs leading up onto high floors where even more books resided, some dating farther back to before the shinobi world began. When he was little, Naruto often got lost, seeing as the place was so large he literally needed a map just to find everything, making him believe the place was far too big. Vergil and Dirge thought the same thing, and made copies of the redhead's map so they wouldn't get lost either when they visited their uncle or cousin. Shadow had only visited 3 times before. Each time she only entered into the study, the library, or Naruto room in order to visit said boy, while Vergil and her father would discuss the village with one another. Currently, the 3 were in the library, Naruto looking around for the ancient, supposedly forbidden apocrypha of his arc, the same time he had learned his kenjutsu style from all those long years ago. Well, anyone found it? Naruto questioned as he closed up, put yet another book back to its place, and Vergil hummed, saying no in his own way as he placed the red book back also, his hitai around his neck leaving his eyes unhidden. Shadow was looking for what Naruto had described to them earlier, that being an old dirty brown book with belts holding it closed and an odd-looking symbol on the front and sides. I've seen over a dozen old brownish red books, but none of them have any weird symbol on the front or sides, Shadow grumbled while Vergil and Naruto sighed. We've been looking through the shelves, Naruto, but perhaps Uncle placed it somewhere else, perhaps even in a case or in his study, Vergil offered, and Naruto shook his head no. Grandpa doesn't like keeping that book in his study cause he has so many guests meet him there. He has it in here because of the seals that keep people out, Naruto stated, and Shadow grumbled to herself about hating the seals. Hey, it's not the seals' fault you tried to get in before I or Grandpa knew you, Naruto stated with a shrug and smirk, making Shadow grumble once more and walked around. Vergil rolled his eyes and walked towards the cases where Vergil kept all of his more precious and rare books. Unfortunately, the apocrypha wasn't there either. Uncle sure does like to hide things, Vergil muttered, and Naruto snapped his fingers as a look of realization came to his face. Duh, where else would he hide it? Naruto exclaimed, then placed a finger on a row of books before stopping at a black-bound book and pulling it, a mechanical sound coming from it as then another shelf of books slid out of the way to show a room filled with what looked like weapons, most of which having been salvaged from the Devil May Cry shop after Vergil had found it wrecked. What do you know? Shadow said and then grinned. What other little secret passages are in this place? She wondered aloud, and Naruto raised a brow, making Vergil smirk. She's wondering if the mirrors in the bathrooms are one-sided, he said simply, still smirking, and Naruto blushed and looked at her strangely. Why the hell would you want to know? He questioned, and Shadow gave him a cheeky look. No reason, but what's with all those weapons? She said, then asked to change the subject, and Naruto went for it, not liking the topic much. They're devil arms Grandpa has been storing for years. And that damn book, Naruto said, then mumbled, seeing the old leather book on a stand. Vergil himself walked into the room and placed a hand on the hilt of the laster one of his father's old sword, but didn't grasp it. My father once used this sword, he mumbled softly, then looked to Agni and Rudra, 2 more swords used by his father, then Cerberus, Ifrit, Nevin, and all the other devil arms that had been collected by his family over the years, now resting in a single room. Who is it that comes before us? Came a voice, and Shadow looked around confused while Naruto groaned. Vergil just smirked while he turned to look at Agni and Rudra, the green one's eyes glowing and looking at the boy, while the red one looked to only be just waking up. The blades were serrated, with glowing orbs in them coming to life, now guard on the hilt with a golden piece at each end that held a small head in place that had glowing eyes and a mouth. One blade was red and orange, the other green and blue. Brother, why must you yell? I was dreaming about our adventures with Master Dante, Agni grumbled softly, and Rudra blinked, then looked apologetically to his brother. I am sorry, brother, but it appears that we once more have guests within our abode, the green sword said, and Shadow gawked at the blades, with Naruto snickering at her look and Vergil shaking his head. Really, guests? It has been so long I had feared that Master Vergil had forgotten about us, Agni exclaimed, making Naruto snort and mutter about him locking them up because they were too damn annoying. I know, brother, it has been far too long, boy. Tell me who you are. You bear a resemblance to Master Vergil, but your soul and stance shows you to be a much different man. The more intelligent of the two blades questioned and observed of Vergil, who chuckled softly. I am Vergil, with an I, son of Dante, he stated, and Rudra chuckled lightly. Brother, he is Master Dante's son. Rudra proclaimed to Agni, who seemed to smile. I know, brother, it's amazing, the likeness with Master Vergil is astounding. Tell us, boy, where is Master Dante? Agni questioned, and Vergil's eyes softened while looking at the two swords. He was taken by demons, a long time ago, Vergil said, and the two swords then looked to one another and nodded. We are sorry, we have never lost our father nor our mother, though we have not seen them for over 1,000 years, Rudra said, and Agni nodded its hilt-like head in agreement. Right, we just came to get that book, you guys, Naruto suddenly said, and the two swords seemed to blink. Brother, isn't that little Naruto? Agni questioned, and Rudra hummed to himself. Why, yes, I do believe it is brother, he said, and Naruto slapped his face, quickly walked into the room, grabbed the book and pulled Vergil out the door while the two swords started to talk about how big he was now. Once out of the room, Naruto walked over to a table, placed the book down and pulled a chair up so he could read, Shadow sitting nearby with Vergil. So what's the story with the talking swords? She questioned, and Vergil chuckled. They're actually devil arms. The souls of certain demons can be used to create weapons, though I don't exactly know what the requirements for this is. It has been years since any demon became a devil arm after all, Vergil explained while Naruto looked through the table of contents within the book and stopped at Chaos Legion, which he quickly turned to and raised a brow. 'Tis the darkest glyph thou bearest. It sacrificed stray souls to summon unearthly force. Unearthly force shall obey and serve thee. 'Tis named Chaos Legion. Naruto read and then looked to Vergil, who shrugged, not knowing what it spoke of, though he believed that the Chaos Legion might be the guilt thing he got from his uncle Vergil. What the hell is that? Shadow then asked, and both boys chuckled to themselves lightly. It's the beginning part of the chapter over Chaos Legion, that's all I know, Naruto told the girl, then frowned. So what the hell is a Chaos Legion? She questioned, and Naruto picked up the book and read on with a soft frown on his face. It's a monster, one that obeys a knight of the dark glyphs, whom bears the darkest glyph in order to summon the beings known only as Chaos Legion. There were apparently very few of them in ancient times, only one in any given age, though usually it was a title passed from father to son, Naruto said, and Shadow made an O with her mouth, though still didn't fully get it. Basically, it's a person who uses the lost souls whom still wander this world in order to command a monster to do his or her bidding. Vergil summed up, and Shadow's face showed realization, and Naruto shivered in distaste. Not really our style. Using souls at least, maybe demon souls, but this seems like it's for human souls from the way you're talking, Naruto said, and Vergil crossed his arms and looked at the book with a frown. Perhaps, but I would say that a demon's soul would be far more effective with them, although the demons would never be reborn. It just means less for us to actually hunt, Vergil said, and Naruto still frowned, then reached into his weapons pouch and pulled the statue out and placed it near the book. I get that, V. What I want to know is how I use this damn thing, Naruto grumbled, and Vergil nodded his head. Let me see it. I'm more versed in spells and rituals than Dirge or yourself after all, Vergil said, and Naruto rolled his eyes, then pushed the book over to Vergil, who picked it up and started to read it to himself. Neeson is weird when he starts this kind of stuff. Whenever he starts something, he always has to finish it. You notice that? Shadow said mostly to herself, then asked Naruto, who nodded his own head in agreement. So, what you wanna do? She asked, and Naruto shrugged, but Vergil cleared his throat. It seems that we have to go to the altar room. Only there will we be able to grant you the darkest glyph of the Knight of the Dark Glyphs, Vergil said while grabbing the Legion's statue and the Apocrypha. Naruto and Shadow sighing before following him, leaving the door to the room containing the devil arms wide open. Brother, it seems that our guests have left us, Agni said, and Rudra nodded his hilt. Indeed, brother, Rudra said, then saw something move. Who is there? Show yourself, coward, Rudra quickly asked, then stated, with Agni looking around with his brother only for everything to go dark within the room. Altar room. I still can't get over how big this room is, Shadow said, looking over the massive room, it being mostly the central part of the castle, with a circular pillar in the middle to stand on the walls around them, cylindrical in shape, with stained glass windows all the way down till it reached the bottom of the castle. Only 3 doorways leading to the chamber, a large statue across from where Naruto, Vergil and Shadow stood. The floor beneath them was smooth and polished to look almost like a mirror, ancient symbols covering the ground. Yeah, it's a nice room, Naruto said, looking over the multiple stained glass windows as they cascaded many different colors of light over them. But why do we have to be in here to give me the darkest glyph? Naruto questioned, and Vergil placed the Apocrypha directly at the center of the room and then placed the Guilt Legion over it, the Legion seeming to come to life, floating over the book. Whoa, how did you do that? Naruto questioned as Vergil stood back. It's not for me to tell. Shed your blood into the same glyph on the book around the Legion. I'll do the rest, Vergil said, and then looked to Shadow. Get out of the way, this will get messy, the boy said, and Shadow raised a brow, then walked over and sat in front of the oddly shaped statue to one side of the room. As Vergil then looked at his hand and cut it at the same time Naruto did. As Naruto made the glyph on the cover of the Apocrypha, Vergil was making a circle around the floor. When both finished, Vergil backed away, standing on the opposite bridge across from Shadow. Well, what now? Naruto questioned, the wound on his hand now healing, while Vergil let out a breath and placed Yamato on the ground, then knelt down in front of the circular pillar of the room. From the pits of the netherworld, and the towers of the celestial plane, let this warrior become one who shall bearest thy darkest glyph, and be hated by spirits for using them as his power. Let his might reign over the Chaos Legion, and have them all at last awake, Vergil exclaimed as the Guilt Legion started to glow, and then the blood around Naruto did also, the glyph he had made starting to do so also, and then all three made a pillar of energy which stopped at the top of the room. Naruto looked around as the power subsided, however blue energy now surrounded him and the Legion was hovering in the air, the Apocrypha now covered by a transparent shell of some form. So, someone wants to use it. The dark power of the Chaos Legion, came a voice as someone walked from the shadows, and Naruto blinked rapidly. This person had blood-colored hair like he did, the same azure blue eyes, and fair skin, only no whisker marks, and his hair was in a slightly different style, though it was the same length as Naruto's own. He wore a long tattered white coat with a black glyph on his back and black fur around his neck, a skin-tight black shirt that barely did anything to conceal him as it showed every muscle he had. A glyph on each of his shoulders with a red gauntlet on his left arm, with a small red glove on his right arm, bandages wrapped around his forearm with a metal band around his bicep, black leather pants with a black leather belt that had a silver buckle, several brown leather belts wrapped around each of his thighs, and a pair of black boots, with a strange silver single-edged sword in one hand of a design he had never seen before. Who the hell are you? Naruto questioned, gripping Gilver's sheath tightly as he did, and the man placed his sword over his shoulders, eyes closed with a silent calm over his face. Sieg Warhite, a knight of the dark glyphs, he said simply, and Naruto backed up slightly. And for you to be able to wield the power of the Legion, you must first defeat a true wielder of their true power, Sieg said, then gripped the hilt of his blade tightly as Naruto quickly unsheathed Gilver and tossed its sheath to the side. Sieg didn't seem to be in any hurry, however, and even looked around silently, his blue eyes scanning the castle like they hadn't in many, many years. This place, it brings back so many memories. Are you just gonna stare, or are we gonna actually fight? Naruto questioned of the man, who smirked slightly to himself, then removed the sword from his shoulders and held it at his side while Naruto crouched getting ready to attack. Why? Sieg suddenly questioned and caught Naruto off guard. Why do you wish to wield the Legion? He questioned, making Naruto raise a brow. Do I even need a reason? Naruto questioned, and Sieg looked over towards the statue was sitting in front of with his eyes becoming slightly pained. If you wish to live, you'll need a real reason to gain power. With that, Sieg crouched and ran forward swinging his sword, and Naruto jumped over him, landing behind him and swinging Gilver at Sieg from behind. The Dark Knight moved like lightning, however, and Naruto's eyes widened, feeling himself being cut by the man who looked at him from the side with a deadpan stare, while Naruto's own eyes widened in shock. He's fast, Naruto thought to himself, though he was glad he could follow the movements it would still be held to dodge the man. Sieg then flipped backwards and brought his sword down in an arc, Naruto rolling out of the way as Sieg's sword hit the ground with a soft clang. Naruto then quickly rushed towards Sieg, swinging his own blade as it sang through the air, Sieg swinging his own as they came together with a metallic clang. What the hell are you? Naruto questioned, then his eyes widened as Sieg's blade was surrounded by what looked like blue fire. I'm me, Sieg said, knocking Naruto back and took a firm grasp of his sword's hilt. Sieg then ran towards Naruto, who flipped back to his feet and swung his sword at the other red-haired man. Sieg ducking and moving to slash the boy, but Naruto flipped over him and swung his sword backwards. Sieg rolling forward to avoid the blade, then to his feet as he then quickly jumped backwards and then used something suspiciously like Vergil's air hike to land behind Naruto and swing his sword at him. Only instead of a platform appearing beneath him, 2 crimson rings surrounded the man's upper torso looking like magic. Naruto didn't bother to wonder about that as he blocked the swing with his own blade before pushing Sieg back and then kicking him in the chin, knocking him back and off balance, as then Naruto ran forward, swinging his blade quickly and cutting a deep wound in Sieg's side. Naruto turned only to see the wound heal, making Naruto's eyes widen in astonishment. Quite amazing, isn't it? The power of the darkest glyph. It even allows something as lowly as a human to do battle with a demon, Sieg said softly, then turned his head to Naruto and ran forward and knocked the boy back with his shoulder. Sieg then flipped into the air and brought his sword straight down, the flame around the blade turning red, just as Naruto rolled out of the way as he pieced the ground with his blade. I think it's time I stopped the warm-up, Sieg said softly, and Naruto actually paled slightly. Sieg then punched with his fist, red lightning crackling from it to grab Naruto. Then the red-haired boy was pulled towards Sieg by the lightning, the man then jumping and used his double jump to kick Naruto back to the ground while he landed safely on his feet. Sieg then held his sword in his hand as Naruto got back to his feet and ran towards the man, only for the Dark Knight to suddenly spin, burning Naruto and sending the boy sailing back. Like I said before, if you have no reason to gain power, you won't survive, Sieg suddenly said, and Naruto grunted, gritting his teeth as he got back to his own 2 feet and glaring at the man who was so seriously outclassing him. Hey, I could give you a hand, Kyuubi said in Naruto's head, and the boy growled lightly. No way, Fox, I can handle this on my own, Naruto stated firmly, and Kyuubi scoffed. Yes, you've been doing a marvelous job handling this thus far. I could have sworn I had to heal your ass several times already, while you've barely landed a single hit on this guy. Must be my imagination, huh? Kyuubi grumbled, and Naruto's eye twitched. Shut up, Fuzzbutt, I can fight on my own. I don't need your power to fight, Naruto growled to the fox, who seemed thoughtful. He didn't want to die, and he owed Sparta quite a lot in the past. How about I just unlock one of your Slayer powers? The fox questioned, and Naruto drew a blank. Ugh, like Vergil's summoned swords, or Dirge's lightning bullets. A special power that only you can use, dimwit, the fox grumbled, and Naruto looked at Sieg and sighed. Fine, but make it quick, he said, and the fox chuckled to itself with glee. Naruto was then surrounded by red energy, and Sieg let out a sigh. Looks like he's letting something within him help him. That won't. However, Sieg's thoughts stopped as Naruto crouched, and the red-haired man felt a new power making him hold up his sword in a protective manner. Just then black, almost fire-like clouds appeared around Naruto's body before turning into a violet aura and revealing the boy crouching, the aura forming into what looked like 4 wings, a pair of horns, and spikes from his knees, looking almost like a demon as the boy's right hand altered, slowly changing into a new shape also. His fingers grew into sharp claws, the skin turning black as midnight. A violet-colored gem glowing on the back of his fist as a silver bracelet covered his wrist, then it extended up the side of his forearm, ending at his elbow. A barb growing from his elbow, while the skin of his forearm changed, becoming thick like leather and turning pitch black. The redhead's hair then turned the same shade of silver as Vergil or Dirge's own. His eyes glowing a bright blood red. Damn it, this hurts, Naruto thought while he crouched cradling his demonic arm, while the Kyuubi chuckled darkly in his mind. Kid, this is nothing. Your demonic power, like Vergil and Dirge's, takes a bit of time to form, and while you use it you're going to have heightened senses. Also, that aura around your body is something that protects you from attacks. I added to it, however, giving you the ability to fire it towards enemies and grab them with it like he did with that red shit. When you don't use it for a while your arm will return to normal and the pain will slowly begin to fade as you use it, Kyuubi explained while Naruto looked at his arm, then gripped Gilver's hilt tightly. Alright, Bloodhead. Now it's on, Naruto said, then ran towards Sieg, swinging his sword at the man who blocked but was pushed back by the force of Naruto's swing. That's new, similar to something Seraphim made back when he and Sparta fought each other actually, Sieg said, confusing Naruto and allowing the Dark Knight to flip up, kicking the boy in the chin and knocking him back. You really need to learn how to stay focused in battle, Sieg said, and Naruto frowned. Would you please just shut up already? Naruto growled and then tossed Gilver into his left hand and fired a violet hand from his right arm. The hand of the limb grasped around Sieg and Naruto pulled the man straight towards him, then slashed Sieg, knocking him skidding away. Sieg placed his hands onto the ground and then flipped himself back to his feet, landing in a crouch while holding his sword. Naruto then clenched his fist, crouched, and raced towards Sieg. The red-haired man looked at his left hand, then at Naruto and let out a sigh. "Looks like I'm forced to use him one last time," he said, then concentrated his power into his left arm and slammed it into the ground. Naruto skidded to a halt seeing the mix of lightning and dust, and then felt himself grow paler than what was natural, like all the heat near him had been sucked away into a deep dark pit. Then he heard a low guttural moan come from the dust and a pair of glowing white eyes that was blown away by a pair of large white wings. Beyond the wings was a body that was covered in mostly blue skin, orange flames covering below the shins, white stripes on his thighs with his chest white also with a couple holes in it, a flap-like tail flowing from his lower back with white fingers and a blue and white almost helmet-like shape to its head. Its wings were of an odd design. Being completely stiff it seemed, yet retaining the ability to move at the same time. Its shoulders and biceps were dark gray and bulky, and it had no visible mouth. "What the fuck is that?" Naruto questioned, then blinked as the creature vanished into nothing and he was hit by what felt like the equivalence of a freight train slamming into him from the side, then below, the side again, and finally from an angle from above, sending him flying. "Allow me to introduce you to my partner, Thanatos, the ultimate legion who reigns over all others," Sieg said as Thanatos let out a loud long moan and Naruto's eyes widened. "O-shit!" he shouted, then ducked out of the way as the beast tried to ram into him yet again. "Just what I need. A huge fucking monster that does more damage than any two humans ever could," Naruto grumbled to himself while trying to avoid the monster attempting to pummel him into submission. "Okay, think Naruto," he said, "if I don't have a reason for the power I won't survive. And even with this devil arm I'm not doing so hot, so it can't hurt to find a fucking reason to have power," Naruto thought to himself while trying to come up with a reason to claim the Legion's power. Sieg walking calmly and slowly around the circular pillar, as the boy faced off against the Ultimate Legion, the gauntlet on his left arm, covered by black and red flames. "Alright, I don't want vengeance for anything, that just leads to more death and more misery. I don't want power to destroy. My family are all about protecting really, but I don't have anything to protect. I mean, sure, I have Grandpa, but he can take care of himself better than I could help him. And my cousins are both just as, if not stronger than me. But, Shadow, she and Tifa aren't as powerful as we are. They have such limited, short lives," Naruto thought, and then used his devil arm to stop Thanatos' assault, gritting his teeth as he held the massive creature back with sheer force of will. And he suddenly began to think of what little he could remember of Konoha, how he felt scared and alone, wishing someone would help him. "Sparta, you saw the lives of mankind and felt pity for their short lives. You fought because you knew it was wrong to cut such short lives even shorter. You used your power to defend humanity while others used it to destroy them. You saved them from your own kind because of they deserved to live, like how Grandpa saved me from Konoha's abuse. That is why I'll fight. To protect mankind like you did before me. I'll use the power of the legions to destroy anyone who tries to cut their lives even shorter," Naruto thought, gritting his teeth and rolling out of Thanatos' way while Sieg smirked slightly, realizing almost exactly what was going through the boy's mind at this very moment. "My reason to use this power, it's so that all humanity can live on, so I can protect their lives, so they need not die senselessly at the hands of demons. That will be my reason to use the power of the legions," Naruto proclaimed, and Sieg looked him in the face and with a wave of his hand, recalled Thanatos to himself, the beast vanishing in a flash of flames. "Very well, that reason alone is better than many I have heard, so bear this glyph and protect those who cannot, from the dark forces which lurk in the shadows," Sieg said, and black lightning arched from his fingers and literally burned 2 glyphs onto Naruto's shoulders and then his left forearm. The boy arched his back, then fell forward as the lightning arched across his body before dissipating, making Gilver's blade start glowing like blue fire and red and black flames cover his right forearm. The gilt crest then slowly floated down from its place, and then seemed to vanish before 6 man-like creatures stood around Naruto. They had white spikes jutting from the backs of their heads, with black faceplates over their eyes, a mask of some kind over their mouths with black leather pants that ended with orange flames beneath their knees, blue armor on their right shoulders and arms, a single gray shoulder plate on their left arm with dark gray skin, and a black glove that had silver armor on the forearm, a black chest plate that had a large white glyph on their backs, and a brown strap over the front from their pants to their shoulder guard on the left, and finally, Each of them carried a large double-edged sword that looked vaguely like a rapier only thicker, made for cutting and slicing as well as piercing. "Now rise, Naruto Sparta, the Knight of the Dark Glyphs," Sieg said as he faded, then vanished completely with a smile as he uttered his final words so softly only he could actually hear him. "Live on, my descendant." And with that Sieg vanished into the darkness, leaving only a brief glimpse of light in his wake, while Shadow and Vergil both ran over to Naruto only for the Guild Legions to block their paths by locking their blades together. "Seems they're very protective of their master," Vergil said, and Shadow nodded. Naruto then pushed himself to his feet, the knowledge within the Guild Legion spreading to his mind, showing him more of the Chaos Knight style that Vergil had tried teaching him. As that happened, his devil arm returned to normal, his hair doing so also, his eyes returning to their azure blue. Naruto then waved his left hand quickly and the legions all vanished into a ball of flame which flew into Naruto's arm. The boy waved for a bit before both Vergil and Shadow quickly grabbed one of his arms, his sword falling to the ground with a soft clang. "He's out like a light. What do we do with him, Neeson?" the girl questioned of Vergil, who looked at the boy with a slight frown. "I'll take him to his room. You find his sword sheath. It won't do to leave it in here," Vergil stated, then looked down. "Also, grab that damn book. I've got some reading to do before we leave," Vergil stated, and Shadow nodded, grabbing the book, then Naruto's sheath, and then finally Gilver, which she then sheathed. Shadow then went after Vergil as he walked out of the altar room, leaving the door open once more as a dark figure walked within the room. "So then, this is where Azrael was sealed over 3,000 years ago," came the voice as Will walked from the shadows. "Force Edge, the Beowulf gauntlets and greaves set, and Cerberus nunchoku with him, tch. Not much to look at, is it?" Will said mostly to himself as the other Hell Knights came from the shadows, also having some of the other devil arms with them. "Shabdi, catch!" Will suddenly said, tossing Cerberus into the air, and a hand rose up and caught it. The twins had Nevin and Alaster. Taro had the Ifrit gauntlets and Agni and Rudra. Alicia was the only one without a new weapon, preferring her magic and gun rod to anything else within the old armory. Callie seemed to have found an old long black sword with a curvy yellow mark at the hilt, though it didn't seem to be a devil arm of any kind. "Geez, this was way too easy. Don't they know how to close a damn door?" Callie grumbled, and the other Hell Knights shrugged. "Even if they don't, it just makes things easier for us. I'm actually more surprised they left Force Edge out in the open like that. Bad sport if you asked me," Will said while shaking his head, and Taro nodded his own in agreement. "They took the book," one of the twins said softly, sounding shy. Being the boy, he looked to be about 10 years old, with long blue hair and sea-foam-colored eyes. His skin was pale, and if you touched it you'd think of sandpaper. He wore a blue kimono with white hakama, a red sash around his waist, black wrappings from his knees down into his old black sandals, black wrappings also over his hands with what looked like a simple ribbon wrapped around one arm, a laster on his back, hanging silently. "Oh hell! Like I care if the fuckers got the damn book. Let the book burn in the fiery pits for all I care." "Fuck!" the girl exclaimed loudly. Being the second twin, she had light blue hair with silver eyes. Her hair was short and spiky, unlike her somewhat feminine brother. With smooth, pale skin and a strong tone to her body, she wore a skin-tight black leotard under a ripped-up white kimono, with a short white skirt around her waist, knee-high armored white boots, with black fingerless gloves and a pair of silver bracelets on each arm. On her forehead rested a pair of goggles with a strangely shaped bow on her back. Nevin with it. "Be silent, both of you. I had no interest in the book. I wanted to see how well that redhead could fight," Will suddenly stated, and the group were silenced, Shabdi walking next to their leader. Shabdi was of average height and build, with pale skin, dark red near black spiky hair, and a similar style to Vergil. However, on him, this was where any human qualities ended. Having 3 eyes that were red with a black scara, the 2 normal eyes have blue scar-like marks over them, pointed ears and fangs, clawed hands with 2 large wings that looked like a cross between a bat's and a bird's, 2 horns pointed up from his brow, being the same shade as his skin, with another 2 coming from the sides of his head where dark gray and curved under his ears to point forward. He wore no shirt, shoes or gloves, but had black shoulder armor with 2 leather bands over his chest into an X shape, black leather bracers covering his forearms, a black choker collar, black skin-tight pants, with gray waist armor like Vergil's that had a white sash wrapped around it that draped down his sides, and a pair of black almost sandal-shaped coverings on his shins and the tops of his feet, a band stretching under the arch of his foot. What did you find out about the boy? Shabti questioned with his 3 eyes looking to their leader, who chuckled and looked to his right arm, watching as it changed into one similar to Naruto's own devil arm, even while Beowulf was still attached to his arm, only it was mostly white with a red jewel at the back of his black clawed hand, white rings around each knuckle of his hand. Will's hair also turned silver, making him the spitting image of a certain red-clothed devil hunter, as his eyes glowed with an ominous red light. That he is interesting. He could prove to be a worthy adversary, Will said, then smirked darkly and turned to his team. Let us go, Temin and Igru awaits, Will stated simply, while reaching back to place his devil arm on Force Edge for but a second before closing his eyes. The sins of the fathers shall be atoned, he whispered darkly while he and his group vanished into th shadows. Where am I? Naruto questioned to himself as his azure eyes opened. He found himself in a large library. Torches upon the wall told him he wasn't in a Kumigakure. The books were also dustier and scrolls were also lined in shelves. A ladder-like stairway was to one side, a large doorway behind the boy. To one side stood a massive statue of what looked like an angel. Upon the roof were what looked like ancient bones, however, hidden by the shadows. Naruto then saw a young man, maybe teen, with some form of weapons on his back reach out and take a book from the shelves, his face hidden within the shadows of the room as another person walked into the room. A woman at his side with a large book in her arms. It seems that you haven't been able to locate the book you seek, the person who wore a cloak said nonchalantly, and the teen slowly looked over towards the other man. Allow me to help you. There are many ancient texts here. Some are forbidden. Those volumes are kept far from public view, the man said, and the teen with the book abruptly closed the book he had pulled out. You seek information on the demon warrior Sparta. Have you read the texts recording the ancient legends? The cloaked man questioned, the woman looking almost like she was in a trance of some sort, eyes glazed over slightly. Upon awakening to virtue, Sparta turned upon his own brethren, and confronted the lord of the demons, who ruled over all of the dark powers. In his rage, Sparta tore him asunder, the man said, sounding as if he was remembering something amazing, and Naruto made out that he was somewhat marveled by this story, not possessed in any way, just enjoying the tale, that was all. Fearing his awesome power, he sealed away not only the demons, but his own sword and powers. A beautiful legend, is it not? The cloaked figure asked the teen, who was still silent, his cold eyes looking through the bangs of his shaggy hair. This lone demon gave up his powers to live as a man, and then settled down with a woman. And so the last demon died as a man, the cloaked figure said darkly while the teen remained silent, slowly putting his book away, seeming uninterested in it now. The evil was vanquished. The covenant was consecrated in a human woman. Evil became good, and the darkness was sealed away forever. Simply beautiful, the cloaked man said, and the teen across from him looked to the floor slightly. Sparta's legend knows no equal, wouldn't you say? The figure questioned, only for the teen to turn and glare at him from behind his bangs. Nice story, not too sure I like how it ends though. Also, that's not the book I'm looking for, so do yourself a favor and save your breath, the teen said darkly, turning to show he wore a simple black jacket over a white shirt of some kind. Really now, then what tale do you seek? The cloaked figure questioned of the teen, who frowned slightly. The woman then began to move slowly towards the teen, holding a book out towards him. Perhaps this tale then, the tale of Dante, one of the 2 sons of Sparta, how he fought and defeated all in his path, even his own brother, and then locked the demon world away once more, sealing away his own power in order to do so, and then vanishing from history soon after, the man questioned, and in the blink of the eye, the woman now lay in pieces on the ground, her eyes popping out of her head, and tongue lolling out. 2 strikes, 1 more, and you won't have a head attached to your shoulders, the teen said, sheathing a pair of blades onto his back as the cloaked figure barely turned to the body beneath him, and let out a hearty laugh. Oh, my apologies. I do tend to ramble on, don't I? However, I have a proposition for you, my young friend, or rather, my old friend. We both know you're not young in any sense or way after all, the cloaked man said, and the teen frowned slightly. I offer you a chance to make him pay, to finally have revenge for the sins of the fathers, the cloaked man said, and Naruto felt himself being pulled backwards into the darkness. Naruto blinked his eyes open and looked around. He was in what looked like some form of ancient temple, columns of marble lined around him with a familiar river flowing under his feet. This is Sparta's home, Naruto said softly, looking around, then saw a flash as two figures clashed, each wielding a sword in hand, the first figure wielding a katana-like sword, with its wings folded down like the legs of a coat, the second one, wielding a broadsword and looking strangely familiar to the boy. The two seemed to dance around one another, swords arching through the air and singing through the air as they slashed at one another. The two warriors seemed not of even the demon world, however. As they fought with honor, no foul play was used as the katana-wielding demon flipped over his enemy, slashing at his arm. The other ducked and then rolled forward and then ran along the column, flipping over his enemy as he brought his sword down. The katana-wielding warrior blocked, then pushed the other back as Naruto saw them suddenly disappear, moving at speeds only demons could reach unaided, and even his eyes could not follow them. Naruto then felt a pull as the two suddenly reappeared, swords coming together in sparks as Naruto saw a pair of thin glowing violet eyes, and three thin glowing blood-red eyes glaring at one another. The two demons then pushed one another back, and Naruto saw the one with three eyes looked like Sparta himself. Only he was wielding Force Edge, much like what happened during a Devil Trigger with the weapon. His opponent was unknown, however, yet Naruto almost thought he knew him somehow. HM, they are really quite amazing, aren't they? Came a demonic voice, and Naruto looked around only to see the two figures, frozen in time it seemed. They fight as though they are possessed, as if they derive some form of twisted pleasure from battle. The voice came again, and Naruto turned only to find himself in what looked like the Konohagakure, standing atop the Hokage monument. Though the same blood flows through their veins, they would battle each other as fiercely as arch-enemies. The voice comes once more, and Naruto sees himself, standing on top of the Hokage tower, looking towards a shadowed figure who holds Force Edge in hand, but in the end, only one of them would survive. The voice concludes as he sees himself and the other warrior rush towards one another with their blades, now fighting against one another fiercely. Naruto stood looking at himself and the other, and his eyes truly widened as he realized the words of the voice. There's another with Sparta's blood? Or will Vergil or Dirge turn on us? Naruto questioned, still watching the fight between himself and the unknown warrior. As he watched, he couldn't help but see his grandfather Vergil, and his uncle Dante in the place of the two below. And though the fighting styles might have been different, the circumstances between each of them and their battle was more or less the same. Family fighting family. End dream sequence. Naruto shot up, a cold sweat on his brow as he looked to his side to see Shadow. What happened? The boy questioned, lifting up his right hand to hold his head only to yelp, seeing as his right arm was still a devil arm. What the hell? He shouted and heard Kyubi laugh in the back of his mind. Kyubi! He shouted at the fox, which continued to snicker. Yes, the ancient demon questioned while looked at his arm with gritted teeth. I thought you said that my arm would change back to normal, you fucking prick. The boy exclaimed angrily, and Kyubi laughed once more. Come on now, kid. I'm a fox, we love jokes. And this is just priceless. Your devil power is called the Devil Bringer. It's really quite an amazing power, all things considered. While I'm not completely sure of its abilities, I do know that it can grab enemies from a distance. Quite a useful little tool, really, Kyubi explained, and Naruto felt his eye twitch in annoyance. I remember that. Jisan said that some guy named Nero had a Devil Bringer. You mean I have the same thing as him? Naruto demanded of the fox, who chuckled once more. More or less. Yours looks and acts a bit differently than Nero's. Yours can also use that aura of yours to defend, which is probably the only difference between them, really. Hopefully we won't ever have to find out. Oh, and your little vixen seems to have taken a liking to it, no less. The Kyubi said in a humorous tone, confusing the boy until he looked to see Shadow was holding his devil arm and looking over it with an interested look in her eyes. This thing feels so much like leather, but it's kinda scaly at the same time. Oh, is this metal? She wondered, fingering his arm, feeling the bone-like spine-shaped growth on the back of his forearm, the folded plates of flesh along his underarm, and then fingering the silver band around his wrist, then folded at the side and curved up to just under his elbow, where she poked the small barb growing there. I wonder if this jewel can come out, she muttered to herself, and looked at the violet jewel in his right hand with a look he would say belonged on a thief. Shadow, why are you rubbing all over my arm? The red-haired boy asked the dark-haired ninja, who grinned at him cheekily. Why, you complaining? She questioned, and he pulled his arm out of her grasp, making her pout cutely. Damn, I was just playing, she said, and Naruto looked at her with a frown while looking over his devil arm. How the hell am I gonna be able to go out in public with this? He muttered to himself, and Shadow shrugged her shoulders. I think it looks cool, Shadow said with a smile, and Naruto rolled his eyes. You think anything that can cause destruction and chaos is cool, he countered with a smirk, and Shadow began to whistle to herself innocently. No, I don't, she said sweetly, and Naruto smirked. So what happened to me anyways? Naruto questioned of the girl, and Shadow let out a sigh. You fainted after you beat that weird red-haired guy. Vergil went to get mine and his supplies ready for our trip. Are you okay? Shadow asked him, suddenly worriedly, and Naruto smiled to her kindly, though wondered if Shadow was always this silly. I'm fine, I'll figure out some way of hiding this thing before we have to leave, he said, then thought back to his dream. Or was it more? Was that a vision of things to come? The boy wondered and then saw Shadow get up and walk towards the door. You should start getting ready then, Naruto. You've been out for nearly 2 days, so the gate might be up soon, Shadow said offhandedly with a smirk, then ran out laughing as Naruto gawked, then growled loudly, jumped off the bed and quickly started looking for anything he need or want to take with him on the trip to Wave Country. Vergil was walking down the street, Yamato in one hand, his black and blue full-face Nero Angelo mask covering his face, a bag with his gear over one shoulder, and another bag in his other hand was Shadow's. He walked into the study of Vergil's castle and saw Shadow sitting down in an old chair while humming to herself, so he tossed her own bag, making her grunt, then glare at him with an annoyed look. So is he awake? Vergil questioned while referring to Naruto, and Shadow nodded her head, still glaring at him. Good, it's best we not tell him, or Uncle Vergil, about the devil arms being stolen. I don't want to die young, Vergil said, then muttered, and Shadow nodded her head vigorously, shivering at the very thought of what Vergil would do to them for losing the devil arms, family or not. It wouldn't be pretty. Then what do we tell him when we get back? He's gonna notice they're gone, Shadow grumbled, and Vergil frowned and thought, we'll worry about that when the time comes. Until then don't let either of them catch on, Vergil said softly, and Shadow nodded with a sigh. Naruto soon came barreling down the stairs, panting as he entered the room, and Vergil sighed seeing his arm. Let me wrap that in bandages. Can't have you freaking out half of Wave Country after all, Vergil said, then muttered, and Naruto rolled his eyes. Vergil then reached into his bag and got out said bandages, then walked over to his cousin and wrapped up the now disfigured arm with the bandages, concealing all but the little barb at his elbow from view. It will have to do. The gate opens in about 3 hours, so we'll have to move quickly as is to get there in time, Vergil then said, and Shadow groaned. I hate taking the train to South City. It's just so damn boring, she groaned, while Vergil and Naruto both slapped their faces. Why can't she ever be serious? Naruto questioned, and Vergil grunted. She can, when someone's dying, the demon said annoyedly, and Shadow stuck her tongue out at the two. Hold that in your mouth, or else birds will eat it, Vergil grumbled while walking out of the study. Naruto following, with Shadow jumping up and running after her stepbrother and his cousin. The three walked in relative peace, Naruto constantly scratching his arm and Vergil telling him to stop picking at it, making Shadow start laughing. Oh Naruto, before I forget, here's some ramen for the trip I got from Tifa, Vergil suddenly said, pulling a thermos from his bag, and Naruto grinned and quickly grabbed the thermos while grinning widely, then frowning when his arm started to itch once more. Kyubi, my arm is itching, Naruto grumbled in his head while walking to the train station, and Kyubi sighed. That's just it trying to tell you something demonic's nearby. It's been doing that for a while and nothing's attacked, so Vergil must be interfering with it or something, the demon fox said with a yawn, then started to snore lightly, leaving Naruto to walk with the annoying itch. Once the group reached the train station, they told the ticket counter they were on business for the Onakage, presented him the official papers, and were on their way. The trip to South City was actually very dull, much to Shadow's annoyance. Honestly, Naruto didn't mind as he just ate his ramen and Vergil just looked out over the country. Shadow just liked to have something to do, however, so she was a bit harder to occupy her time. The two boys looked out the windows to see the trees and other such things, while Shadow began lightly tossing a kunai knife up and down, catching it as they went to try and stave off boredom. When that didn't work, she began to carve symbols into an old dull kunai before getting out her sharpening kit. That managed to keep her occupied the hour it took for them to reach South City. She had only just finished sharpening that one kunai when they arrived, and she had to rush to put everything back into her pack, while Naruto and Vergil could only sigh in annoyance. Eventually the group finally made it to the gate. The structure was basically just a large gate, with several seals on the ground with computers to the side, men working on it. So is it ready to go? Vergil questioned, and the men nodded to the young demon. Just stand on one of the seals and we'll begin. one of the men told the three genin, and they did as told, though Naruto was a bit nervous, having never used the gate before. Alright, no one move a muscle, the man said, and then started to move levers and push some buttons, a bright light coming over the group as they finished. Now all you have to do is push chakra into the seal below you and we'll begin the transfer, the man said, and the three did as told. Naruto and the others then felt a pull, and suddenly it seemed like all light was gone and Naruto saw flashes of light and color before his eyes. Nami no Kuni. Naruto shivered as he, Vergil, and Shadow all landed. Shadow was the only other one to shiver as Vergil looked forward and nodded to his uncle. So what is the situation? Vergil questioned, and Vergil let out a breath. I did a light check of Gato's base. As far as I can tell, he has about 100 bandits, and an annoyingly small supply of actual battle-ready shinobi. The only threat I saw was a missing nin by the name of Zabuza Momochi, maybe the person with him. The two Chunin known as the Demon Brothers have both left to stop someone named Tazuna from reaching Nami no Kuni, Vergil explained, and Naruto blinked. So basically you could kill them all in one night, he stated, and Vergil smirked. Yes, but you three need more combat experience, Vergil stated, and then looked at his grandson's arm. What happened? He questioned, and Naruto sighed. Kyubi woke up by devil power. It's called Devil Bringer. Apparently the old fox thought it would be funny if I couldn't walk around town like a normal person, Naruto grumbled, and Vergil rolled his eyes. Never stopped me, and I'm wearing demon armor, the older half-breed said, and Naruto rolled his eyes. Vergil then interrupted by clearing his throat, and both looked to him. As informative as this has been, Uncle, I believe we have more pressing matters to attend, especially seeing as you placed the seal for us to land on in the middle of the forest. Vergil grumbled, and the older man frowned. Sorry, but I couldn't have everyone see you all appear out of nowhere, he stated, then turned, only to stop and narrow his eyes. It appears that we are in luck, Vergil said, and the three genin walked over to him. How so? Naruto questioned, and Vergil pointed towards an oncoming group. Those nin are protecting Tazuna. Unfortunately, they're from Konoha, Vergil said angrily. He still didn't like Konoha. They mistreated his grandsons like crap, and if that wasn't bad enough, that practically spat on his son's dying wish. Uncle, put away your anger. We can deal with them at another time. For now our goals are one and the same, Vergil said sagely, then pulled his two team members down. He and his uncle both ducking as the sword went spinning past where their heads had been. Well, what do we have here? A team of Konoha brats and another team of brats with a strange man in armor, said a gravely voice as Naruto and the rest of his group looked up to see Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the bloody mist. He was a tall man, and muscular, with a black leather strap around his upper body in a Y shape, striped pants, cow skin arm and leg warmers, black shinobi sandals, bandages around his lower face, his Hittite tilted to the sides slightly, and black spiky hair. Vergil frowned when he heard the man call his nephew and grandson brats. He didn't think much of Shadow, but he knew she was not a brat, at least. A little strange, but not a brat. So you're the supposed demon of the bloody mist, Zabuza Momochi, yeah? The armored warrior said darkly as he walked from behind the trees, Naruto, Vergil, and Shadow following him. Supposed? That's a first, Zabuza muttered, hearing Vergil, then looking at the man strangely, finding that his face looked familiar for some reason. And just who might you be then? Zabuza questioned, while the Konoha nin looked at Naruto's team warily while the red-haired boy looked at the group. First was a boy with black eyes, pale skin, spiky black duck-shaped hair with a Konoha Hittite around his forehead, a dark blue high-collared shirt with a red and white fan on the back, white shorts with a kunai case on his right thigh, with white and blue wrist warmers, white and blue leg warmers, and a pair of blue shinobi sandals. Next was a girl with bubblegum pink hair, fair skin and green eyes. She had a slightly pronounced forehead, however, and absolutely no chest. She was wearing her own Hittite around her head, holding her hair back with a red short-sleeved dress that had white trim and circles on the shoulders, back, and near the bottom front of the dress. Two slits on her legs showed her tight black shorts with a kunai case on her right thigh, a pair of blue shinobi sandals to finish the look. Then was another boy. This one was odd, having squinted eyes, with a Konoha Hittite around his forehead, short black hair and deathly pale skin. He wore a black zip-up shirt that stopped to show his midriff, a short black jacket above it with holsters to hold what at first glance looked like a sword on his back, a strange backpack that had numerous scrolls in it, a pair of black gloves that left some of his fingers bare for gripping, black shinobi pants with a kunai case strapped to his right thigh, and black shinobi sandals. Finally was the sensei of the group. He had gravity-defying silver hair, with a Konoha Hittite covering his left eye, his right eye being dark gray. A black mask covered the rest of his face. He wore typically standard jounin gear, nothing out of the ordinary, with a typical vest, shirt, pants, kunai case, and sandals all in place, with only his steel-plated gloves being out of the ordinary. From what Naruto could see of them, they were simply pathetic. "Grandpa, is that Sharingan Kakashi over there?" Naruto questioned, and Vergil rolled his eyes and took a quick glance at the single-eyed jounin, then smirked to himself. "I believe it is, and I take it you want to know if you should help me or let me have my fun, right, Legion?" Vergil questioned while using Naruto's code name, and Naruto nodded, then stiffened and looked to the side. It looks like some devils may have noticed our entrance, Grandpa. Mind if we go handle them while you take on Zabuza?" Naruto questioned, and Vergil smirked, reaching to the side as his massive blade appeared, shocking some and confusing Zabuza as he had never seen a sword made like Vergil's. "Now go have some fun while I take out this low-class scum," Vergil stated, and his team nodded, then leaped to the side and ran to a clearing just in time as the sound of breaking glass assaulted their ears, and several creatures came from the air. What now stood before them looked like it may have at one time been human, but now the skin, muscles, and hair were all gone from its skull, leaving only the bone, which now had long fangs and strange carvings in it. The eye sockets were filled with a ruby in one eye, a diamond in the place of the other. Their jaws opened to show that it was biting down on a circular stone of some sort that also had odd carvings in it. The hands of this thing had 9-inch-long claws seemingly made out of bone, with carvings also cut into them. Its only skin was all blue, with odd black tattoos covering its form. It wore an old tattered gray cloth over its body that acted as a hood and cloak and barely concealed its form, covering only the bare minimum. And last, in place of feet, the claws on its feet seemed to have been fused into one another to form knives, with another knife protruding from the back of their heels. "Hell dancers?" Naruto questioned, and Vergil blinked in surprise, seeing the 5 creatures bending and arching in an almost dance-like motion. "I'm just as surprised as you are. I thought these were only indigenous to the Western territories," Vergil said, and Shadow raised a brow. "What the hell are you talking about?" she questioned, then ducked as one of them tried to stab her with its foot. "Talk later, fight now, Legion. Look after Shadow. Where hell dancers are, there's usually someone there to summon them. Aim for the disc to get rid of them quickly, and watch out for a hell raiser. They like to pop up when these devils come out," Vergil ordered quickly, then placed Yamato at his waist and rushed forward past the demons, as he then jumped into the trees, and leaving Naruto and Shadow with the hell dancers, which then lunged at the two. Naruto rolled to the side as Shadow then flipped over a dancer and got her trench knives out and slashed the disc in one of the hell dancers' mouths. However, as it was crumbling, it started to glow green, and then the disc reformed itself as another demon rose out of the shadows. It was strange looking, if nothing else. Its body was concealed in a black cloak with silver embroidery, but what could be seen was what made it seem odd. Its head was a skull, only with a pair of emeralds in the sockets, elongated fangs rather than teeth. It had multiple carvings into its skull, which were all glowing with an ominous green energy, and a third eye socket on its head with a red gemstone in it. Its lower body was mostly concealed save its arms and legs, which appeared to be made of bone and colored dark gray, with more glowing carvings through them. In fact, it looked like one big skeleton that was floating off the ground to stand at about 8 feet tall, making the creature itself a good 7 feet tall. Behind it was an odd circular stone gate that hovered with it as it had its arms crossed. "Naruto, is that a hell raiser thing?" Shadow asked, and Naruto groaned, then grabbed Shadow from behind and ducked under a couple of the hell dancers, and then unsheathed Gilver and rushing towards the hell raiser. "Keep those dancers busy while I deal with this thing," he exclaimed, and Shadow nodded, then ducked as a hell dancer tried to slash her from the side, then grunted as one clipped her shoulder. Naruto meanwhile ran towards the hell raiser, only for it to spin around and drop a couple more hell dancers out of the gate on its back, making the boy curse to himself as he ducked, then sliced upward, cutting a hell dancer as the hell raiser then started to glow green and fired a beam of energy at the hell dancer, healing it instantly. Naruto growled angrily and then felt his devil arm pulse. The violet power that surrounded him before did so once more as Naruto fired it at the hell raiser and pulled back, bringing the demon straight to him as he then sliced upwards, cutting it in half. Naruto then leaned back, his hair turning silver as his eyes start glowing a bloody crimson. Naruto spins Gilver in his hands and cuts the nearest Hell Dancer's disc in half, then leans back as the next one spins and he flips, kicking it off course before then landing and rushing forward, cutting the disc for this one also. Naruto, could use some help here," Shadow called out as the now 4 Hell Dancers were slicing and slashing together. Naruto growled and sent out his aura, grabbing the closest demon towards him as he ran, then cut the demon's disc, destroying it as it turned to sand like all the others. Naruto then ran towards Shadow, jumping up and kicking one demon in the head, knocking it back as he cut the disc for another one, and Shadow kicked the last one in the mouth, shattering its disc and leaving only one remaining Hell Dancer. "Do you want him or should I go?" Naruto asked Shadow, who smirked. "Ladies first," she stated, and Naruto scoffed. "You're a lady?" he questioned, and Shadow glared at him before then flipping forward and kicking the Hell Dancer's skull upward, shattering the disc in its mouth as it fell to the ground, quickly becoming sand. "Ha," Shadow said, and Naruto rolled his eyes. "Not bad, but you're still no lady," he stated, and Shadow walked over and punched him in the shoulder, making the half-breed laugh slightly. Then both sighed as red gates started appearing around them, from out of which appeared several creatures with gray skin that had a large spike jutting from their front and back, with almost skull-like faces that had rubies for eyes. Purple cloaks was wrapped around their bodies with large black and silver scythes in hand, Hell Prides. Naruto gripped as he gripped Gilver, then stretched his neck, loosening the muscles, and Shadow put her trench knives back in her shoulder armor, and then pulled her hand scythe out of her armor. "You're just always prepared, aren't you, Shadow?" Naruto quipped dryly, and Shadow shrugged. "It's a gift," she said, smirking as she and Naruto then ran at the Hell Prides, slashing away. With Vergil, Naruto's grandpa, "So, are you all going to just stare at me or are we going to fight?" Vergil questioned, looking from Zabuza to Kakashi. Whose side are you on exactly?" Kakashi questioned, and Vergil smirked. "My own," he stated, then frowned, looking up at the supposed demon of the bloody mist. "But for now we have a common enemy in the man named Gato, whom this fellow works for if I'm not mistaken, so I would suggest that we work together to defeat him," Vergil stated, and Kakashi blinked. "And how do I know you won't get in the way?" he questioned, and Vergil snarled, eyes glowing bright red as he turned to look at him. "Trust me on this, Sharingan Kakashi, it would not be wise of you to insult my power," Vergil said demoniacally, making Zabuza laugh loudly. "So we got Sharingan Kakashi and some no-name who looks familiar. This ought to be fun," Zabuza said, and Vergil smirked. "Oh, I never told you my name, how rude. It's Vergil Sparta, or the Azure Fiend of Akumigakur," Vergil stated with a smirk on his face as Kakashi paled under his mask. "Shit. I insulted one of the 3 strongest men in the world. Shit and double shit," Kakashi thought while Zabuza seemed confused. "Sorry, you're not in the bingo book, but you must be strong to be able to make Sharingan Kakashi sweat," Zabuza said, then vanished with his sword, only to reappear on top of a nearby lake. "Kirigakyu no Jutsu," the man called out, and Vergil frowned, closed his eyes and listened intently, feeling the vibrations with his feet on the ground even through his armor, and smelling everything around him. "Gotcha," Vergil thought while vanishing and reappearing behind Tazuna, his sword blocking Zabuza's from cutting the old man in half as he appeared out of the mist, now looking at Vergil with wide eyes. "Summon swords," Vergil muttered softly as glowing blue blades appeared above Zabuza, then rained down, impaling him only to reveal water. A Mizubunshin," Vergil said thoughtfully, then looked to his side to see Kakashi staring at him with wide eyes, his Sharingan left uncovered, as Zabuza then appeared behind him and swung down. Kakashi seemed to be cut in half, but it too was a Mizubunshin as the real Kakashi then appeared with a kunai to the man's throat. "So that's where he went," Vergil muttered as he looked towards the lake. "You children stay put and watch the old drunk. I have something to take care of," Vergil said coldly, and vanished from his spot as Kakashi was attacked by another Mizubunshin and sent spiraling into the lake. As soon as Zabuza was about to use the water prison jutsu on Kakashi, Vergil appeared as slashed at him, the large Nin leaning back and flipping away as he did, while Kakashi got up. Vergil then chuckled lightly to himself and charged forward, thrusting his sword at Zabuza. The man rolled to the side, then swung his Zanbato at the half-breed, only for him to vanish and then reappear behind him, swinging his sword down as Zabuza rolled to the side. "What is this guy? For every move I make it's like he's ready to counter-maneuver me," Zabuza growled in his mind as then Vergil smirked once more and pointed his blade upwards. 2 rings of glowing summoned swords surrounding his body as he then fired them off towards Zabuza, who cursed, and started to flip and weave around them when he saw Kakashi preparing to use a jutsu. Katon, Gakakyu no Jutsu! Kakashi exclaimed and blew a fireball towards Zabuza, who quickly made his own hand seals, then exclaimed, Suetun, Suryuden no Jutsu! With that, a dragon made from water shot towards the fireball, cooling it down. Vergil then reappeared before Zabuza and quickly unsheathed his sword, slashing the large nin along his chest. Zabuza grunted, then bashed Vergil with his large sword, sending the silver-haired man flying as he then quickly began forming more hand seals. Kakashi followed Zabuza and even began to use his Sharingan to freak the large nin out. Vergil then flipped up and groaned as Kakashi finished the jutsu. Great, I'm going to get wet. The dark warrior grumbled as Kakashi then exclaimed loudly, Suetun! Daibakufu no Jutsu! With that, Vergil removed the chakra from his feet as the entire area was consumed by a massive amount of water, swirling the group around until finally ending with Zabuza against a tree, Kakashi in a tree glaring down at him. What is this? Can you see the future? Zabuza questioned and Kakashi smirked, when Vergil came out of the water and frowned at the Jounin. Yes, I see your death, Kakashi said, and several saban needles came from the trees and hit Zabuza in the neck, forming a collar-like shape. Everyone quickly looked over to a tree to see a person in a white hunter nin mask, and Vergil frowned. You were right, the nin chuckled softly. With Vergil, teenage OC, Vergil ran across the trees and finally found where the leader of the Hell Dancers was. Vergil stopped to drop his backpack to the ground and then glared at the being creating the demons currently attacking his cousin and sister. He was a strange-looking demon, however, and yet power oozed off his form in waves. He looked to stand at an impressive 6'5", with a red helmet on his head that had 2 horns pointing backwards, a pair of red pads on his cheeks, a dark gray mask that had blue lines running down its face like tears, and a little silver stud at his chin like a goatee. His eyes were glowing through the mask, however, and looked a menacing crimson in color. On his back was numerous black thorns that were curving over his shoulders, a black chest plate over his body that had a red demonic skull emblazoned on the front, dark gray shoulder guards curving down to cover his biceps, a pair of black bracers on his forearms with a silver skull on the back of each, with black hands that had red clawed fingers, red wings wrapped around its waist that looked like the tails of a long coat. Over his front like a loincloth was a pair of long tendrils which wrapped together. His legs were black with red lines of thicker skin, his knees were covered by skulls, while his shins, calves, and ankles were covered by red armor-like skin with black feet that had 3 clawed toes coming off them. The being was sitting down, its legs crossed as though he was waiting for someone as Vergil dropped to the ground. The being looked to him for a second, then let out a hearty laugh as then the shadows wrapped around his left arm and a new object appeared at his shoulder. It was skull-shaped with blood-red eyes, 3 red circles on its brow with what looked like fangs for teeth, 2 long curved arms coming from the sides with 3 taloned fingers on its hands. A sword then appeared in the being's hand. It was thin and long, looking like it could be folded down into itself with a curved spike at the end of the hilt, a rose on the mouth of his mask, and black flames flowing off the back of the skull-like object. So then, just who might you be? Vergil questioned and looked to Yamato with pleading eyes. Please lend me your strength this time, Yamato. Lend me your power, he thought to the blade. It had become somewhat of a habit. The sword was partially alive after all, so it was just him feeling the need to acknowledge the blade's own heart. It had never disappointed him thus far as Vergil quickly unsheathed the shining blade of Yamato, and the being before him let another hearty laugh. The two then quickly lunged at one another, Vergil slashing with Yamato as the other demon slashed with its own blade. The two stopped their own swings, then pushed one another back, and Vergil frowned. The demon then clapped his hands, and suddenly 2 energy swords appeared before the demon, and then exploded forward, knocking Vergil back as the demon rushed forward, slashing with his blades several times. 3 energy blades appearing as he finished. The swords then bolted forwards and pierced into Vergil for a second for exploding and knocking the boy back as the demon ran forwards towards him once more. Vergil grunted and blocked the sword of the demon, only for the 2 arms off of the skull on his shoulder to reach forwards and then throw him to the side. I had that thing, Vergil muttered to himself, then formed his own summoned swords around his body and fired them at the demon, who then vanished in a burst of speed and reappeared above Vergil swinging down his sword at the young silver-haired nin. Vergil quickly rolled under the black and red demon as it cut a tree in half, Vergil then spun and slashed the demon's chest plate, then quickly teleported and reappeared above the demon, slashing twice. But the red demon flipped backwards and landed on a tree branch, laughing at the boy once more. The two then ran at one another, Vergil quickly moving forward and slashing everything in his path, knocking the demon off balance before he then quickly held his blade and used the slash dimension and cut the demon's chest plate, cracking it as the demon fell to the ground and Vergil flipped over him. The demon then got up with a roar and lunged at Vergil, swinging its blade at him and cutting him and the top of his vest. The crimson creature then lifted Vergil up and slammed him up against a tree. Only the beast looked in shock as Vergil's golden amulet fell out of his torn vest. Vergil quickly used the distraction to kick the red demon, then slash it in the face, cracking its mask and helmet as it fell backwards. Vergil panted as then the skull-shaped object then vanished from the demon, the sword appearing in Vergil's left hand as the skull-like object attached to his own arm, and he looked down on the red demon, which looked at him strangely. "Vergil," it said in a deep demonic tone before vanishing into the shadows. "Did he know me?" Vergil questioned while looking at the spot the demon had been in, then looking as the device on his arm shifted and placed itself on his back. The rose now on its mouth as the sword folded down and shaped itself into 3 little spikes which appeared at the side of its skull, while the arms folded inward, also the 3 talons pointing upward. "What the hell is this thing?" Vergil questioned, then looked at his vest and let out a sigh. "I'm going to need to find a tailor," he grumbled, then vanished in a flash of light. "So, he managed to face off against Nero Diavolo," came a voice as a figure stood up in a tree, and then turned as Will walked out of the shadows. "I told you having him fight Vergil was a mistake. He can't hurt him. Before Will could finish, the cloaked figure held up a hand and chuckled lightly. "I never expected him to defeat Nero. In fact, I was merely testing the boy. With Lucifer in his grasp, he may even pose an actual threat. Assuming that he can use it, of course," the cloaked figure said with a chuckle, and Will scoffed. "Just make sure that Naruto kid gets Gilgamesh, and we'll have no problems, Scion of Mundus," the boy said darkly, then vanished into the shadows, leaving the cloaked figure alone as Nero Diavolo appeared behind him. "Soon, the real battle will begin," the cloaked figure said to himself, then turned to Nero. "Get Gilgamesh ready. I want you to face the red-haired child with it, then you will face Vergil with your own blade," he stated, and the demon nodded its head to him before both vanished into the darkness.